I'm Tara Woodley. I am president of Break the Silence Against Domestic Violence, and you're welcome to our podcast, Through the Eyes of Survivors, where we talk to interesting people who are not only advocates for abuse, or they are survivors of domestic violence themselves. This week, we have some very welcomed guests, some wonderful ladies that we have been sharing an experience with for many months now. And so we're going to be talking with the producer, Kirsty Richardson of Art of Abuse, and Georgie Harriet King, who's actor in Art of Abuse. And both of them co-wrote the script to this movie. And it's something that Break the Silence has been backing and promoting, helping to get the word out there about this topic, because we feel like it's just very important. So I think where I'd like to begin is with Kirsty and Georgie. How did you come up with the idea for the script, and where did that come from in your background?
So actually, it's probably best that Georgie starts answering that, because she brought the script to me. So Georgie, up to you.
Thank you. So I met Kirsty on the first film I worked with them on, of all things, a zombie film. And through conversation, I mentioned I had this script tucked away, and they said they're sort of looking for new films that kind of, I guess, push the boundaries a little bit. And I'd started writing this script in 2018. I'd gone through a sexual assault by my best friend at the time, and writing for me was a really nice way to deal with that. I kind of thought, right, I'm going to put everything on paper, things that conventionally it's not normal to go out and talk about. So it was nice to kind of put into a script and have that format and that release. And I took it to Kirsty and Jason, and Kirsty read it and said, yep, great, we really like it, but it's not like we need to do more. Like, if we're going to talk about this, let's talk about it properly. Instead of kind of hiding away and kind of not really saying enough about it. And that's kind of where Kirsty stepped in and we started to co-write.
Yeah.
Well, that's wonderful. Yes.
It was very important to us as a company that we didn't hide behind the effects of filmmaking. So we wanted everything that we showed that we are showing within the film to be done as a practical effect. There's nothing visual effects. There's nothing CGI in the film. Everything has been done practically. We didn't want to hide behind the glorification that filmmakers show quite often. So we wanted to actually show how horrific and how wrong sexual abuse, physical abuse, and domestic abuse in all its capacities is, and that this is why it should not happen, and bring that to life in a filmmaking way.
That's wonderful, because it's so much easier for people to just hide behind that mask of what you experienced. So I really commend you ladies, especially Georgie, putting that down, pen to paper. I know how hard it is to sit down and like write your actual experience, but it can be so cathartic. It can be absolutely so healing, and it's something that here in this organization we definitely promote. That people break their silence, put this down, and tell their story. So I know this isn't particularly your story, but you connected with it in that way. So that's wonderful that you're shining a light on it.
Thank you.
So tell me just a little bit about like the plot. Just sure. Give us a little bit of a teaser without giving too much away. So
it's very nerve-wracking having the producer sat there with the knowledge that if I break my NDA, I'm going to get fired.
No.
Got a teaser trailer coming out shortly, so you can elaborate a smidge, Georgie.
Okay. So the film centers around a pair called Leah and Brandon. They meet kind of in a very meet cute way. It's all very innocent. They meet through the local coffee shop, and they're two very unsuspecting people that kind of end up. There's a bit of chemistry between them, and it kind of just comes out of nowhere that Brandon abducts Leah, And I think the main part of the plot was to make sure that we were not only shining a light on sort of abuse and violence that can happen to women, but also to men. So there is a male sort of captive, which I can't say too much about how he comes into that. But it focuses on a lot of really difficult topics. And I think that the main thing for us was we wanted to create a film where it wasn't necessarily the predictable sort of thing that you'd see where like a big burly man was really aggressive and, you know, you could sort of tell he was going to be abusive. Because the truth is, I'm not saying that's not true if you do see someone like that, but for a lot of people, their abusers are people they know, people that know, like, and trust them. And the sort of person, and Brandon as a character is very much the sort of person that if he was down the pub or, you know, in a restaurant with you, you trust him, you have a laugh with him, you go home with him, like he'd offer to take you home. And as a character, he's so, I think Alex, who plays Brandon, was just phenomenal. All of us were blown away by how wonderfully he brought to life an abuser behind closed doors. He was truly terrifying in the best way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, Kirsty, what would you like people to know about kind of what the film's plot is about without giving too much away?
I mean, I think George has pretty much said it all. For us, like she said, we wanted to portray Brandon as someone that is unsuspecting. You wouldn't know he was that person. So for me, especially, it was very important that he could be somebody that you met in the pub and he's a really likable person. He could be your best friend and you wouldn't have a clue that was what was going on. We also wanted to bring to light how things aren't dealt with very well by the police force with the domestic violence kind of route and especially with sexual assault and things like that. So we do touch on that towards the end of the film. There's when the police do get involved. I can't go into that too much, but we have touched on how the police don't deal with it too well. So we've brought that into it as well, because we wanted, like I said at the beginning, we wanted this to be a very real, very, very raw film, and it is. But that's what makes it horrific, and that's why it sits well with our company that specialises in horror. So yeah.
Yeah, wonderful. So maybe we talk in general terms, since you all are in England and we're personally here in America. That is a common theme, no matter it seems to be what country you live in, that the police do not handle a lot of these situations correctly. So is there certain things like that you had seen go on that you touched base to draw in that into your film that you can talk about?
Do you want to go? Who wants to go?
Do you, I mean, we haven't really spoke about whether you want to speak about your experience or not.
That's chill with me.
Yeah,
I think
it doesn't have to be personal. It can just be, but if he wants to be personal, sure.
Sure. I mean, I think we were very in the process of writing this. It was very evident to both of us that everyone on this project had some sort of experience, whether it was with domestic violence, abuse, sexual assault. There are a huge range of people on this cast and crew, and everyone had experienced something.
I think it's 95% of us, isn't it? We worked out, I think there was literally one or two people that haven't experienced some form of domestic violence or sexual assault on this film.
Yeah.
Wow. Amazing.
And horrendously, it's not like we were going out seeking people who, had experienced it. This was just like general people that we hired and then kind of gone, oh my word, that's a phenomenal rate.
These people have opened up whilst on set with us as well, and every single person has opened up and had a chat with either myself or Georgie about their experiences, and that's been lovely and quite cathartic for them as well, which has been a really nice thing. But
definitely,
it's also made us change the script and edit it in places as we've gone along.
Yes, and I think like talking about kind of the police and the way that it's handled was very much a later thing that we added into the script.
Right.
through talking to people. When I was younger, I was sent quite inappropriate pictures by like a kind of family member, and I went to the police about it, and they pretty much just went, oh, well, there's not a lot we can do.
Mhm.
And then it was a case of, even after the assault, there'd be people going, oh, well, don't go to court with it. And I was like, why? And they went, because you were drunk when it happened.
Right.
Or, because you were wearing a low cut top. And I thought, but
Mhm.
why does that have any relevance to it? But unfortunately, that is the sort of system universally that we're all in. It is, what were you wearing? What were you doing? Why were you at fault?
Right.
That she was 16, her boyfriend was 15. He raped her. She couldn't go to the police because she was the one that was of legal consent. But if she went to the police about it, she'd been the one that was done for statutory rape because she was of legal consent, even though he raped her.
Yeah, see, we have that kind of stuff here as well. It's very much, just so you ladies know, even in my own personal experience, I am a survivor, and people also know that I lost a daughter to domestic violence 11 years ago. But back in the day when I went through it some 20 something years ago, the police were very non-existent. It was very much of takes two to tango. One of you needs to go take a walk. They expected you to just be right back in it. And now they do make arrests here in this country, but then still, again, it's the same questions over and over again. They mess up so many things. They messed up so much with my daughter, trying to keep her in the county to, quote, protect her so they could arrest him. But they didn't they were using her to draw him out instead of really protecting her. And that kind of stuff just happens so much, I think, universally, that it's very tragic. So I'm glad that you guys are focusing some on that in your film. And wow, it's just phenomenal that 95%. So we basically have a volunteer rate, same thing here, of survivors helping survivors. So it just kind of lets me know, as a leader in this organization, that we paired up with the right people. You guys' hearts are in it, clear down to your crew. So that's just phenomenal for the audience, I think, to know that it's a full-on active, people are putting their heart into it because they have been affected by it, right? So, yeah, sure. So, tell me about, I know we've been helping y'all for what, putting it on Facebook and everything, maybe 8 months or so now. So the film process, you want to go a little bit into that, how the dynamics of that kind of work, so that people understand that a little bit?
Sure. So Georgie first brought me the script. Oh, when did you first bring me the script?
End of 2021.
The end of 2021. And then it took us a good 6 months further to develop that into a workable film script. So once I've then got a workable script in front of me, I then break it down into locations, characters, places like that, and then I look at who I want to play the characters, where we're going to shoot it, and then work out the budget, which is the hardest. Then we have to try and raise the budget.
Right.
So for this film, we have done an Indiegogo campaign, which is what you guys have been so kindly sharing for us, to try and get as much budget as we can. It's been a tough road, hasn't it, with this one? It's been a slog, and we're still going, but we're getting there. We've got 2 days left to film in, I think. Three. Yeah. Actually, we're doing one on Sunday. So once we've got the locations, we book those, and then we start principal photography, which takes some time. And because of budget restrictions on this one, we don't do it all in one big chunk. Like Mission Impossible, for example, we'll do it all in one big 6-month chunk all together. Mm-hmm. And just knock the whole film out. But then they've got millions of pounds. We've made this on a shoestring budget of so far £6,000, I think.
Oh wow, yeah, something like that.
I think £6,000.
6,000, 8,000 maybe, not sure.
Yeah, I think it's about 8,000 because we put a loan in as well, didn't we? So it's about that. So a very, very shoestring budget. So we've had to do it bit by bit whilst we're waiting for funding to come in. Once it's finished, when we've done the last 3 days filming, which I can't wait, it goes to our fabulous editor. We found an amazing guy who, funnily enough, is called Guy.
Cool guy.
Yeah.
And then he gets edited, and we're hopefully going to take it to Cannes, which is the biggest film festival. Everyone's heard of Cannes. It's amazing. So hopefully it'll go there, and then hopefully it'll sell and do really well. So yeah.
Oh, yes.
Filming in a nutshell.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, we're going to take a moment here to pause for our sponsors, and then we'll be right back and talk with the ladies from Art of Abuse. And we're back. Through the Eyes of Survivors is talking with Art of Abuse. And I find it interesting that the genre you were in before was horror films. And so doing something that was based off of like sexual assault, domestic violence, that kind of thing, is it really like a big jump in your genre, or do you find it pretty equal in what you've been doing previously?
It has elements that are the same, but in some ways it's also totally different. And by that I mean it still has its, obviously with it being assault and abuse and things like that, so it still has its elements of violence, very real horror, obviously some amount of blood and things like that, so it's still got that element of horror within it. But the things that we're not used to doing so much within the horror aspect are the real raw emotion and the lengthy dialogue scenes, and things like that, which also incorporated into this film. But I think we've pulled it off.
Well, yeah. So I imagine that just helps more with the authenticity. People really don't understand how horrific those kinds of scenes are when you're in the middle of living it, right? So I think it's important to get across to how bad those kinds of scenes. I mean, specifically speaking from a mother who, I mean, I was one of those mothers who had to know. I mean, my daughter died in the hospital in my arms, but I had to go to the crime scene and see. I had to. I couldn't have a closure until I saw that. And I don't know why. There's many families out there who couldn't do that, or they walk into the crime scene and it is horrific. It really is. So I think it's an important thing that you all are doing, that you're bringing the real life horror to life of that aspect. Georgie, you want to talk about that a little bit? What that's been like for you, especially like as an actress?
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head there, is that these things in real life are horrific. They're probably the most horrific things that you could see. And I think Kirsty and Jason were fab to take this on, because being in a horror background, especially Jason, the director, he's very much like, chuck more blood on there, let's make it look real. And I think, people will watch mindless horror in films and think nothing of it and go about their day, and they're like, oh yeah, that's fine, let's watch another fight scene. But if they're going to watch that, why can't they watch something that's real and actually talk about it? And I think for us to be able to open a dialogue and sort of people go, oh, that, even if people are going, that's not realistic, and someone goes, well, actually it is, like that's what it's going to look like. And so many things are hidden in film that shouldn't be, and other things are shown that shouldn't be. So I think that was quite nice. And from an acting perspective, I mean, blimey, we spent hours in the makeup chair, absolute hours. And thank goodness our makeup artist is lovely. She's wonderful. So Karen's fantastic. But it took a long time. That was probably the longest thing on set, really, was actually just getting all the makeup and the crying. I cried pretty much in every single scene. So emotionally very draining. Yeah.
I mean, there was, I have to say that the actors did do an absolutely phenomenal job. There are a few scenes in the film that if the audiences don't cry, there is something wrong with them, because these scenes during the film when they were acting them had every member of the crew sobbing whilst we were filming. And that's without the music and the special effects and the colour grading and everything else that goes into it during edit. That's just the raw acting on the scene in set whilst we were filming it. So if they can create that whilst we're actually doing the shot, then God knows what the audience are going to feel like when the magic happens after the edit.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's incredible to be that moved. And you guys know what the whole background of it. You can see all of it. It's not just something on the screen. So you know all the background. To be that moved. I can't wait to see and experience it. It sounds amazing. So, so did you like, let me think how to word this maybe. Like, did you have to walk away and take like a lot of self-care after making something this intense? I mean, I can imagine, I had a real life experience of it, but even just, I had the experience of, just telling my story on Investigation Discovery before a camera. I didn't have to play any scenes. And I know that was so taxing and draining that I had to provide myself a whole lot of self-care. So did the crew have to experience a lot of that, I imagine?
I think everyone in their own individual way did. The crew did, but not to the extent that the actors. I mean, obviously Leah and Ethan, Georgie and Dan, who played Leah and Ethan, for obvious reasons, did. But to be honest with you, it was the guy that played Brandon that I think struggled the most in some ways, because he was the one that was having to play and pretend that he was enjoying, in a way, doing the things that are so horrific. And he is the nicest guy in the world. And bless his heart, he'd just lost his dad as well before we went filming, and he had to come out and film some of the most horrific scenes that he's ever going to film in his entire life, in his entire career, and he knocked it out of the bag. So I think he struggled. He did take a lot of walks at night, bless him, to himself. But he did such a phenomenal job. They all did. But yeah, there was a lot of self-care involved. I mean, Georgie can tell you more about that from an acting perspective.
Yeah, Georgie, I would be interested in, like, because I know there's a certain bond among actors and actresses as they're performing and stuff. What is it like to have to do this character and then come back to the realization of, this is my friend, he's a great guy, how hard is that?
I mean, with Alex, it's a lot easier than I kind of thought it would be, because he is just such a sweetheart. Like, we'd be doing a really horrible like fight scene, and he'd be like shouting in my face, and then straight after he'd be like, "Are you okay, darling? Did I hurt you? Is everything all right?" So he's lovely. And I think with Dan as well, I mean, to be surrounded by Alex and Dan as actors was just like phenomenal. They are such lovely human beings, and such talented people as well. There'd be times, I remember one scene we did, and I was sort of looking at them during the scene. I turned to Jason, like, can we please get like a shot from where I'm sitting? Because their eyes, just like Dan's eyes were filling up and Alex's eyes were filling up. And then I started crying, and I didn't really need to. And it was, they're wonderful. But I think it was definitely a tough shoot to be on. And being out in the Irish countryside, which is so green, it's so beautiful. We'd all take walks along, and our hobby was cow spotting. So every time we saw a cow, we'd all be shouting moo at it. And you come up with these weird, funny little things to just keep you going. But I think, it was definitely tough. I mean, I had multiple panic attacks on the shoot. I ended up relapsing with an eating disorder. It was, and everyone around me was so supportive. It was nothing to do with sort of the situation. It was just the sort of pressure of the project, I guess. But it was totally worth every minute of it. It really was. Like, just to, obviously, I hope the film does really well. But even if the film, people don't watch it, or even if it doesn't do really well, personally, I feel like I did a lot of healing on that set, and from a really selfish perspective, I really felt like it just sort of went, you're okay now, you're all right, everything's good.
No, well, I'm glad that you're taking care of yourself now. You're in a good place. So yeah, because I would imagine that would be quite triggering. I know certain things are very triggering for me. So I imagine since you wrote this, Georgie, and you had those experiences. So, but we're grateful that you have shared that, in this manner, in this art form, So, sure. And so I guess this would be a good place to take another break here and have one more final word from our sponsors. Welcome back. And we're still here discussing with Art of Abuse, their amazing film. And hopefully this will do very well when it comes out, because it sounds like an amazing project. So, Kirsty, is there anything like you would like to discuss that we haven't kind of touched on as far as the film?
There's just so much, really. I mean, we're just, Jason and I, we put our heart and our soul and our blood and our sweat and our tears into every single project that we make. But there's just something about this one that is just, for me, it's like Georgie bought me the project, but for me, this is my little heart project as well. I adore this project. I adore this film, and I'm eternally grateful to every single person that's worked on it. And I really do hope that it does as well as I think it will. But yeah, I mean, I commend Georgie for the courage that she's shown throughout the project, the entire thing. Like, she's very lucky that I can spot a panic attack a mile off. And that I spotted when she was having a lapse and whatnot. But, we hugged a lot on set. We sung a lot on set. We did an awful lot on set just to cheer Georgie up. We had such good camaraderie. We had dinner every night afterwards. It was just brilliant. Like, I think it's the best film and the best set altogether that I've ever worked on, and it's just been, the whole experience has been amazing. So for me, this is the one that I really hope and I think will do the best. But we couldn't do
it. So tell us a little bit about, is there any needs that the public can know about to help finish this project off so that we can get this into the Cannes Film Festival?
So we are still fundraising. I know I bang on about it constantly, but these films do not happen without money, unfortunately. So we do still have our Indiegogo campaign running at the moment, which I will send you a new link for. It has got lots of perks on there that you can buy. So you could get things like being a producer on the film credit. There's loads of things like a digital download of film when it's done, copies of the script, signed copies, signed pictures of the cast. There's loads of different perks and stuff you could get on there to donate towards getting this film finished and in Cannes. So yeah, take a look at that and put whatever you can afford towards it. That would be insanely awesome. We are also hoping, fingers crossed, to have a premiere in America. That is
awesome.
And if we do, come along, everybody, because we would love to see you all there. So yeah.
Oh, yes. Oh, I know some of us will be there for sure for Break the Silence. You have one here in America. We definitely will be there. Because so the audience knows, like, Break the Silence, I mean, you actually featured the organization in some ways. You want to talk about that for us?
Sure. Yeah, so we were very, very excited when you guys gave us the green light to actually feature Break the Silence in the film. So one of my favorite characters, to be honest, played by the lovely Danny Thompson, who is the Scream princess here in the indie film community. She plays Carol, who is one of the kind of like counselors. I say counselors, but like domestic Break the Silence against domestic violence. She's sort of like a don't know what you call her, like a representative.
Advocate.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
Yeah.
So she plays an advocate of Break the Silence, and she's brilliant. But we've also really lucky to be able to feature the Legacy Angels within a couple of scenes. So we've got the kind of posters up there as I think just to give a nod to that, and that for us was a really emotional day. Actually, being brutally honest, it was a very stressful day.
Right.
Everything that could have gone wrong on that shoot went wrong, and then the minute we got to shooting that bit, it all just sort of fell into place, and everyone went really, really quiet. So it was really lovely to have that there. But we've been so lucky with people that have supported us, like yourselves, and just people's generosity and people coming and being involved in the film. We've had sort of people get us to write scenes for them and come and be involved, and they donated to our campaign. So we're incredibly lucky with the support that we've had, and especially from an acting perspective. You guys must remember the call we first got on, and we spent about 2 hours chatting, and all of us on this end were in tears hearing all of your stories. And I think for Dan and I, especially, Dan who plays Ethan in the film, Dan and I talk really regularly. We sort of kind of trauma bonded through the characters in this film. We say so regularly how wonderful the support has been from you guys, and just being able to hear your stories and know that this film is being made for a reason.
Oh, absolutely. I don't believe in coincidences. No. So, no, that's fabulous. And so, just tell the audience, because I know our angels are the ones that we have lost, like my daughter and several of our other board members here have lost family. But tell the audience how you decided to feature them in the film. Can we discuss that?
Yeah, go for it.
So Georgie and I discussed this at length, because we wanted to. Originally, we were just going to have them in the credits and do a in memoriam, which we're still doing. In the final credits of the film, we're going to have a in memory of, and then have the Legacy Angels names, and potentially, depending on how the editor does the credits, but it'll either be the names and the picture in the credits, or just the names. Not sure how we will do the credits yet, but it'll be one or the other. But then we were like, we want to include them more somehow. So we came up with the idea of using them as the missing persons posters in the police station. So the idea is that it's not just Leah and Ethan that have gone missing within the film. The idea is that there are other people, and that the case is that it's like a big investigation into a load of different missing people that the police are undergoing. So as in the TV series, and you see the missing persons board as they walk past them with all the posters on, we have one of those with the Legacy Angels posters on it, and then Leah and Ethan are in the middle of all the Legacy Angels surrounding them. And it's actually a really moving part of the film, because the detective walks up to it and he's got his coffee cup, and he stands there for a few minutes just looking at the posters, and then walks off. And it's just a moment in the film, but it's just long enough just to get that just the second that we needed. But yeah.
Right. I think that was very the families who decided to be a part of that with their angels, that was very moving for them, to know that their loved one was going to be kind of memorialized in that way. That's a very special thing. So we appreciate y'all doing that. Absolutely. I can't thank you enough for doing that for our loved ones. So there's all kinds of little things that people can do to help, raise awareness. So, but this is big. So we commend you for all the hard work you've been doing. So do you have kind of a timeline? I know that timelines really ain't that great, because depending upon funding, but what you're hopefully shooting for as far as getting the project done?
Well, like I say, we've got 3 more. I keep saying 2, 3 more days to shoot. But Cannes is next May.
Right.
Hoping that the world premiere, hopefully, will be at Cannes next May.
Awesome.
Hopefully.
Yes. Yes. We're going to put all our energy into that thought. It will be there. It will be there. Yeah.
That is our biggest hope, that it will be at Cannes next year. So, yeah.
Absolutely. So, what is the significance of like going, just so the audience know? I know everyone knows Cannes Film Festival and everything, but what's the significance of like being at the Cannes Film Festival and any kind of honors that might be received for a film like yours?
So it's difficult because with our films, normally we just release them into the normal indie horror markets, but because this one isn't your normal indie horror as such, it doesn't really have a festival of its own to go to. It's a very niche, very different. It doesn't really have a category, if you see what I mean. It's very,
yes.
It doesn't have a title that you can stick to it, that you can say, oh, it needs to go to this festival, it lives there. But because of its niche and because of its subject matter, and because it's so raw and so real, it would be perfect for Cannes, because they love that sort of film. That's the sort of thing they look for all of the time. Now, Cannes is the biggest and most well-known film festival. It's the one where almost every big film gets released in, and all the stars flock there every year. It's 2 weeks of sun, sea, and films, basically, and most films have their world release there. Most, I say, but yeah.
Yeah.
If you want to release a film, it's where you aim to release your film.
There's lots of distributors kind of flock there too, to find films that they can kind of take and market for people. So lots of big sort of conversations going in the daytime in your jeans and t-shirt, and then you throw on a nice glitzy dress and run off to see a couple of films in the evening. And I think for us as well, we keep talking about it, being covered in bruises the entire time. It would be lovely to actually feel like human beings in a nice sparkly dress in the evening.
If we get to Cannes, we're all going to wear purple to the premiere.
Yes.
Oh, yes. Wear purple. Awesome. You have to send us pictures of that for sure.
Okay.
Yes. I love the purple. So that was my daughter's color. And so I wear her color all the time. My staff will tell you, my husband will tell you, my oldest daughter goes, when are you going to quit wearing the purple? When are you going to wear another color? That's when I feel like it. When it quit making me feel good,
Totally.
Yeah. So I don't see that ending anytime soon. Yes, wear the purple. That would be awesome. Absolutely. So, Georgie, is there anything else that you would like the audience to know about this film and about your experience?
Gosh, it has been an incredible experience, as we've mentioned quite a lot. I think our goal with this project was to make it as real as possible, to build characters that weren't necessarily the stereotypical characters you would expect. I think there's a big expectation for people who have been through abuse or assault, that they're going to look a certain way. They're going to be tiny sort of shriveled little people who don't speak up or don't, that they fit into a box. And in reality, that's not the case. I mean, I'm 5'9". I'm not a skinny person. And I played someone who's being abused. And equally, Dan, he's really into his fitness. He's physically a very, very fit man.
Right.
And he played a captive. Alex is very tall, quite slender. He's not the sort of, as I mentioned, like the big sort of macho man you would expect to be abusive. And I think for us that was really important, was to open up a conversation, because we had people, I had a few people who sort of turned around and said, oh, you're too big to play that part. And, he wouldn't be able to sort of do the things that he's doing. And I went, but that's not the case, because people my size and bigger or smaller, they all experience it. And
Right.
I think mentally it can be such a it mentally is a lot of the time where abuse begins, and that can then lead to sort of feeling like you can't get out of it. So I think I'm really happy that happened. I mean, obviously I was a bit put out when someone was like, you're too big, but I'm glad it happened because it opened a conversation. And as I say, that was our main goal, was to open dialogue about this.
Absolutely, because we have to break those stereotypes. The stereotypes is not always some big guy with some little big girl, and that's not reality.
Exactly.
When we walk in the public, that's not reality. When 1 in 4 are experiencing that here, across the world, that's not reality. Right. So, yeah, that's awesome. So, I appreciate you ladies being here. Is there anything else that you would like to say before we go?
Everything.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, thank you. You have been so wonderful. We are so proud to help promote, what you guys have been doing, and hopefully we can promote it enough that you can get the backers that you need to finish this important project. So, absolutely.
You guys as well, like knowing that you've supported us has honestly helped so much. Even just be able to say, Break the Silence Against Domestic Violence supports our film. Because so many people we had, I mean, Kirsty will remember at the start of when we sort of began this project, there were so many people turning around to us going, no, like someone even said, I don't think this film should be made. Like it's too much. And when you guys came on board, we were like, oh, okay, all right, we're doing the right thing. And people started to go, oh, okay, maybe this project should be made, like if a charity's supporting it. And especially you guys, like you're known, people know you, they trust you. I mean, the support has just been phenomenal. So thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. I think it's important that people experience the reality of it. And we don't sugarcoat it. And the reality of it is horrific, and it is trying, and it is something that breaks people, but at the same time, you can rebuild. And I think that's a very important thing for people to realize, that people who've experienced sexual assault and domestic violence are like phoenixes out of the ashes. They rebuild themselves into something new and wonderful. And, there is hope after that kind of thing. But in order to get there, you've got to like really shine a light on how bad and evil the experience was in order to make it end. So that's at least, our perspective as an organization on it. So absolutely. Well, we thank you, ladies, and hopefully we will be seeing you at a premiere here in the United States, and we can do another podcast then and talk about that and let everybody know that they can come see it here, not just in England. So that would be wonderful. Awesome. Well, thank you, ladies, so much, and this ends our episode of Through the Eyes of Survivors. Please be sure you check out our website at www.breakthesilencedv.org, or check out our Facebook, which is Break the Silence Against Domestic Violence. And we will have links down below that will take you to Art of Abuse, and where you can help sponsor and promote the work they're doing. And hopefully we will get this film out. But we're going to say we're getting it out in May, so in the cans. Yes, absolutely. Thank y'all.